Hi, this is Stuart, and in this episode of Behind the Lens, I'm going to be talking about a shoot that I did with an Australian BMX icon, Mark Wolfmann Schneider. Mark got his name Wolfman, I think from Robbo or Corey Bowen, when his hair was a bit shorter and he looked like Wolverine. Anyway, Mark's one of those guys who, I think I met Mark when I was 16 years old at Trend BMX that used to be over at Cabela Bar that was ran by Damien Nielsen. And, Mark is a trained shunter. I think he's done it for over 30 years. But he's always, lived the BMX lifestyle or whatever. Yeah, everything was BMX related, even though he doesn't ride as much these days. But, anyway, I think Mark is one of those people that's probably done more for the Australian BMX scene than most people. He ran one of the longest independent BMX contests, which was called Heavy Metal Heroes. Built all the ramps, especially when Beanley was going down the ramps were really bad when he first started. So he built whether it was sub boxes and extra quarter pipes. I think he built a street spine as well. And, the funny thing about the contests, when they started to taking off, some BMXers started to get involved because they were getting popular and acting like they were fully part of it, even though when they first started, they didn't even acknowledge the contests. But anyway, anyway, this shoot that I did with Mark was over at his house at Springwood. Mark was going through a bit of a rough patch, wasn't too happy about a lot of things, but he's doing a lot better these days. But Glenn and Rado, we went and met up with him, had a good chat with him about stuff, and I think it was just good to see him because I hadn't seen him for a while. And I sort of said to him, do you want to do a photo shoot? And he was more than keen. He was rocking the Punisher t-shirt, which looks really good in the pictures, and I shot it with my Sony A7 R4 and my Sigma 105 1.4 portrait lens, and I also used a Godox 8600 Pro and shot it on a 45-degree angle, just one flash. I don't know if you'd call it Rembrandt lighting, but either way, I think the photos come out well. Let's have a look, go through the photos anyway. Oh, how did that get in there? There's Mark. I think Mark's probably like 23, 24. Look at that six-pack he's got going. Well, is that the pixelation? And he's standing out. Obviously, he's done a burnout in his, I think it's a 79 XD sedan. I could be wrong, though. Mark, if I am wrong, can you let me know what model car that is in the comments? Okay. I think the black and white versions of this photo look better, but as you can see, he's got a bit of stubble happening. I definitely shot it at 1.4. You can see the fall off here, the shallow depth of field, but they're perfectly in focus. As you can see, the eyes are, perfectly in focus. I'm sure Lindsey Brown will be able to pick something out about the photos. But yeah, I enjoy the stubble he's got going with the shadow and stuff like that. That's the black and white version of the photo. I obviously straightened it up a bit in post, but yeah, no, I'm really happy with how that came out. Yeah, I'm not too happy with this photo. As you can see, the reaction on Mark's face, he doesn't seem too impressed as well. Getting a bit better. Yeah, that's not too bad. That's still in focus, which was good. That's one thing you learn when you start getting into taking photos. You think they're in focus and they're not, and then when you finally watch one of the YouTubers or someone will tell you, make sure their pupils and eyes are in focus, and then they're perfectly in focus, especially for doing portraits. And the way the automatic focus is in the Sony cameras is insane. You can shoot 30 photos and it'll only miss focus once, but most of the time it's perfect. I've obviously said some bad joke to get a reaction. Look at that grin. What do you think he's thinking? I wish Stuart wasn't here taking my photos. But as I can see, the Punisher logo looks good. Black and white. This is a bit better. Another good thing about Mark is it didn't matter, who you were and stuff like that. He was always good to pretty much everyone, unless you're involved in drugs or something like that, or from the north side of BMX. Mark's very famous for his one-liners, and he was mad at me one day and he said that everyone on the north side was on drugs. And he said there was no good skate parks on the north side back in the day. He called it the 4-foot skate park tour. So, yeah. Let's go to the next one. Yeah. This is not too bad. Got the catch light. The reflection of the flash in his eyes. Another good thing about Mark is, especially when people would come overseas, he'd let anywhere from 1 to 10 people stay at his house. When he lived at Shayla Park, he had a vert ramp in his backyard and box jump. What else did he have? I had this famous park, Wolfmann Park, that was very famous among some of the BMXers back in the day as well. But yeah, Mark always had interesting stories. That's not too bad. I don't know if I liked the colouring I used with the blue. Yeah, that definitely looks better. And as you can see up in the corner there, where the arrow is, Mark had an extremely big DVD collection. At one stage when he was living down the road from Beenleigh, you go around his house and watch a movie on a Sunday night with him, and I don't know how he got he had these old cinema chairs, but he had it, the chairs at the front, and then he built like a platform and put the other chairs to give you the look, so it looked like it was in a cinema, which was always good. Yeah, you can definitely see the DVDs more. Mark I think he's got 2 rooms dedicated to Star Wars. He has all the Star Wars figurines. I did a interview with him probably 14 years ago called The Chronicles of Mark Wolfmann Schneider, where he told some of his famous stories. I'll put a link to that in the description. And I'm going to be doing another interview with Mark in the coming weeks. He's just had surgery on his eyes, so he doesn't have to run glasses anymore. And what else is Mark? Oh, look at that. Got the socks in as well. But, overall, Mark's quite fun to, take photos of. I've took some photos of him in his car and in another shoot as well, his Camaro, and then I took some photos of him just down the road from where I live, near the Cabaret Club, famous adult nightclub that I'm sure some of the BMXs have been to over the years. They used to have $5 lap dances. Anyway, I'm just rambling, but once again, as far as I'm concerned, Mark's an absolute legend when it comes to BMX in Australia, and, he'd do anything for anyone. What's the next one? But anyway, if you like the photos I've taken, Mark, or if you don't like them, let me know in the comments as well. Yeah, I definitely, one of my favourite people to shoot old men with beards. There's just so much texture and detail that goes in to, when taking them, especially, you don't know what sort of life they've had and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm not talking about Mark here, but I do love close portrait shots. Mark Mann is a famous Scottish photographer that lives in LA. I don't know how that moved back then. I'm not touching the mouse, but he was one of the reasons I got more into shooting portraits after shooting live shows at the Triffid and stuff like that. I just wanted to try, to shoot something different, but definitely portraits is the main thing I'm into and stuff like that. I keep saying stuff like that. There's a coloured version of it. Yeah, it's a bit off, that one. Yeah, that's really close up. I'm into that sort of stuff. I'm talking about that other photographer, Mark Mann. He's into this sort of... He actually uses a ring light, which I'm not too into. And anyway, I think this probably might be good to end the video. But anyway, if you're happy, if you liked what you've seen or the portraits of Mark, or if you want to know anything more about Mark, or you've got a question about him, or you've got a story about Mark, leave it in the comments. And if you like the video, like it and please subscribe. I'll do another one of these videos soon. Maybe we can get back to that picture of Mark. Where is it? Let's go all the way back. Where is he? That photo is priceless. I remember Mark showing me that years ago. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, have a wonderful day.